Spooky sightings and legendary tales are reported in most of the historic houses I've visited across Britain. It might be a feeling when you enter a room.
So this is our big haunted room.
I've been here once before.
It's a freezing cold room, whatever time of year. So, you know, it can be boiling hot. This room is chilly.
It is cold.
It's always cold.
And there's something quite heavy.
Seeing an eerie being from another age.
There are areas within the gardens as they've evolved. We were clearing up from a wedding reception, and one of our duty managers was picking up champagne glasses, and she thought she saw a guest, but the guest was wearing a long frock coat and was walking through a hedge.
No.
But this was a hedge that was planted much later than the design of the frock coat. So was it a family member?
Or strange, unexplained occurrences.
It was a room we used quite frequently, and of course when someone comes to stay you say, did you sleep well the next morning? And it's a normal question.
Yes.
And invariably, not all the time, but invariably people would say, no, I didn't sleep a wink. And we said, well, why? Well, the child was crying all night long. And when we told them there was no children in the castle that night, they went fairly pale, as you just did there.
In this episode, I'll hear just a few of the ghostly happenings which have haunted some of the oldest castles and stately homes in the UK.
When I married into the British aristocracy, it was the start of a wonderfully exciting journey. But it was also a little daunting. I became a Viscountess, and for an American girl from a small town outside Chicago, that was quite a shock.
I live with my husband Luke, heir to the Earl of Sandwich, and our family at Mapperton House in Dorset.
Living in a place like this is a joy, but also a challenge. And every day we're aware that we're preserving a very special part of Britain's heritage. Mapperton has opened up an extraordinary new world for me, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
So if you love castles and manors and stately homes as much as I do, please join this American Viscountess as I journey into the British countryside in search of some of Britain's finest historic houses. In the north of England, in the Western Lake District, Muncaster Castle has been home to the Pennington family since the 13th century. But life here dates back thousands of years, and mysterious things happen here.
Peter, Murray, we're here in front of the fire at Muncaster Castle. I'm quite calm. I'm feeling good. But apparently, there are ghosts inside this house. Is that true?
There's lots of strange happenings.
Okay.
And there's been people here for a long time, and perhaps they're still here now.
Right.
And Muncaster is famous being one of the most haunted places in the kingdom. And that's from scientists who don't believe in ghosts.
Hey everyone, I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about something that is really, really important, and that is our mental health. And we all face these huge challenges in life, whether it's stress or anxiety, or simply feeling a little lost. And for me, therapy was a true game changer. I remember being really hesitant at first and not sure if this was really for me or if it would help. But my first session was eye-opening, and it was really the first time that I truly felt without judgment, and I also left feeling lighter and with a sense that there was a path forward. Therapy has given me a safe space to work through my thoughts and really understand myself better and develop healthier coping strategies. It's not just about having someone to talk to, it's also about learning how to take care of your mind, just like you would your physical body. The positive changes that I've noticed in my life through therapy are countless. From handling stress better to building healthier relationships with the people that I love. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp, the paid partner of this video, is on a mission to make starting therapy easier. BetterHelp is an online platform where you can connect with a qualified therapist from the comfort of your own home. And the process is super, super simple. You just fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And one of my favorite features is that if the therapist you're matched with isn't quite the right fit, you can easily switch until you find someone who really clicks with you. Plus, there's a journal feature, which I love, for personal reflection, and even group sessions are available daily on a variety of topics. BetterHelp carefully ensures their therapists are well qualified, and their customer support is there to help you if you have any questions along the way. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, it is a platform that you can trust. So if you're struggling and you think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/American Viscountess and get 10% off of your first month of therapy. Remember that taking care of your mental health is a strength, not a weakness. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope that this helps some of you who might be considering reaching out for support.
So there are many, many stories. We could be here for a whole week telling you the ghost stories, but there are three main stories that we'll tell. And the first one is the story of the Manchester Bogle, or the White Lady. And Murray Wilson, who's been born and bred in the estate and lived here a long time, he will tell you the story
Of the White Lady.
of the White Lady.
Of the White Lady. Are you sitting comfortably?
Well, maybe I should uncross.
shall
I should
begin.
uncross my legs for this one in case I need to run
Do you
out.
believe in legends?
Do I believe in legends? You know, I'm not so sure. It's like sort of the paranormal. I'm not sure if I believe it. It's sort of like I haven't made my decision yet around that.
Well, a legend is like a kind of a story with a little bit of truth into it, and then people kind of put things their own take onto it. Anyway, this legend starts in 1806. A woman called Mary Bragg, who used to live at the vicarage, which is not too far away from me, about 400 metres as the crow flies. Lots of crows flying in this story. And she was going out with a young lad from the castle called John, and he was a footman. And they were happily, as they do in those days, nothing too untoward. And but unknown to John or Mary, they had a rival, and she was called Mrs. Liddell, or Adele. And she was wanting a piece of the action, as in with John, but
No.
Mary was having none of this. Anyway, so Mrs. Liddell, she instigated a plan, and she got two ruffians from the village to go and knock on the door of the vicarage and say to Mary that John is feeling very, very ill. Can you come down to see him and put his mind at ease? And she said, yeah, of course, I'll do anything for him.
This was 3 o'clock in the
This
morning.
was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a horrible,
She knocks.
It was a horrible morning. So anyway, being a devoted girlfriend at the time, she says, yeah, I'll come down and I'll do anything for my man John. And as she got into the carriage, she kind of thought there was something wrong, but anyway, got in the carriage. And as they went down the hill, the carriage then stopped. She was taken out of the carriage, placed underneath a tree. Pistol was put into her mouth.
What?
Trigger was pulled. Bang!
No.
She was dead. And then the blood apparently went into the tree and soaked into the ground. But anyway, after that, they took the body and they didn't know what to do with it. So they
And
brought
who
it.
done it?
And it wasn't a who done it. We knew who did it. It was the two ruffians from Ravenglass. But
Right.
they didn't know what to do with the body. So they brought it down to the terrace, which is a wonderful walk just outside these windows here, actually. And they left her in the summer house overnight to decide what they were going to do with her. So they wrapped her up and they took her down to the orchard where they thought that she would just kind of decay or the wild animals would eat her, and that would be it. So the plan was working for about 4 or 5 weeks until a little boy who had some cows lost, and he was looking for him in the castle grounds. When he came across this body, well, he put his foot into her chest by that time because she was decomposing and he was a little bit frightened. So he ran up to the terrace where the body was laid for the first night. And on the terrace was the two people. One was called Mr. Bibby, who was the gamekeeper at the time, and one was the head gardener. And the young boy told the story of what was down there. And William Bibby, the gamekeeper, said, "Don't worry about it, son, we'll look after it, but don't tell anybody about it." So we think they could be in on it as well. But After that, these two ruffians then took the body and threw it into the River Esk, which was tidal. So it means the tide's coming in, out, out. So the body was coming in and out, in and out. And eventually it washed up at a place called Wobberthwaite, which is the next village down, where a doctor did a post-mortem on it.
Okay.
And this is where it gets a little bit exciting, and Mary took a little bit of revenge, because the doctor in his post-mortem said she died of natural causes. Bit of a gunshot in the head and bullet out one side. So he was then found dead in the river a few weeks later, but he could have been drunk and gone down there to kind of relieve himself or whatever. But anyway, he slipped in the water and he was drowned. So then it came to the two ruffians, and one of them went kind of mad with the guilt that he had, and the other one decided he would go to Yorkshire and be a highwayman, but he wasn't very good at that, and he was caught virtually straight away and he was hung.
Okay.
William Bibby, the head gamekeeper, he also fell into the River Esk and drowned, but this was some 30 years later, but still drowned in the River Esk.
Like the doctor.
Like the doctor.
At the spot where Mary's body was found.
That was where Mary's body was found. And then after that, Mrs. Liddell, who was the instigator of it all, nobody could prove she was a murderess, but she was banished to Whitehaven. There's been lots of sightings seen of this woman, and one of the
Mary
most
Bragg.
famous...
Of Mary?
Mary Bragg, yeah. And one of the most famous ones was on the sides of the road by a couple that used to work at the castle. There was a builder and his wife used to clean in here, and they saw what they thought was a lady on the wall crying, and a guy called Jason Braithwaite was down here at the time, one of these professional ghost hunters, and he said, "Would you take me to the place where you saw this image?" She said, "Yes, not a problem." So he took her up there, and she said, "That's where I saw it." And he peered over the wall, and there was a stump of a tree where this oak tree was cut down. But it was cut down in 1984. And the local woodcutter at the time knew about this story and really didn't want to cut this tree down because he knew that it was kind of a haunted tree.
It was a cursed tree.
So anyway, after a bit of coercion, he cut the tree down. Now, because Monk...
And this is where Mary was...
This is where Mary was
shot. Okay.
Dead. Shot very dead, actually. Anyway, so they found this stump of the tree. The woodman at the time, he didn't want to cut the tree down because he knew about the curse. And anyway, he was persuaded to cut it down, but it had to be felled across the main road so that all the traffic was stopped. And the first job, after it went down successfully, he would have to cut it in half. And as he started cutting this tree, people don't believe this story, but it is absolutely true, blood started coming out the tree, specks of blood. And then more blood, then bits of skin, and then the blood started pouring out. But what had happened, he'd cut through a roost of bats in the tree. It was all the bats that were getting chopped up and coming out. But everybody knew about this blood coming out of the tree, so nobody would want anything to do with this
cursed tree.
This cursed tree. So the woodcutter at the time thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just keep cutting it up and put it into people's firewood bit at a time, nobody will notice. So one day he was cutting the firewood and he felt a tap on his shoulder. And he looked around and there was nobody there. So he went back to cut the wood and he put his hand out and his hand had been severed by the circular saw. That is true. And you know why I said legends are true? Some legends are true. I know that is absolutely true because I was a woodman and it cut my hand off.
Oh my gosh.
That is where it was severed and all my fingers just lay down on my arm.
What?
And that was from Mary Bragg's tree.
The curse of Mary Bragg.
The curse of
the
Mary
living
Bragg, I
embodiment.
got it.
Oh my God.
And he's had his hand sewn back on by a very professional
Yeah,
surgeon.
they sewed my hand back on after about 12 hours operating on it. The
What?
second hand they'd ever sewn back on, so I was quite lucky. But that's how I know that legends are true.
No.
That's the curse of Mary Bragg,
You were the woodman.
the
I was a
white
woodman.
lady who never got
That's
justice.
why I know that that story is very true.
Oh.
So now, Peter, you're better for that.
Beat that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So Murray is
No,
a
you weren't
legend.
expecting that one.
I wasn't. I've gone white, haven't I? Even though I'm by a hot fire. Wow. Okay, I believe in legends now.
You have to.
There you
It
go.
is true.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little bit of truth in something. It starts with something,
Yeah.
a little spark, and
But
then it's
it's
added on. But there's always a root to
It's a
it.
terrible story. It's love, it's jealousy, it's hate, it's
Yeah.
violence, it's...
Or chopping your hand off.
and this poor girl never got justice, and,
No.
and she was sort of swept under the carpet, and
Yes.
the authorities were against her. She was just a mere
But
serving girl.
maybe she did get
But-
justice because we're still talking
well,
about her
she-
today.
She haunts the highways and byways,
And she's been seen quite often.
We've had
Right.
a number of people who claim to have seen a white lady walking down the road or leaning against the wall in the middle of the night. And a few people think they've run over somebody in a car, and they hit this. And afterwards you talk to them and they say, well, she was all in white. And she was wearing her night clothes because she was pulled out of bed early in
Right,
the morning.
exactly.
And it's
there
always
was a
usually the
carriage.
same
And,
place. Sometimes she has been seen on the terrace with the
Okay.
boyfriend John, but
But, oh my goodness. Well, her memory
So
lives
that's our
on.
first story. Yes, so in
Okay,
a way,
that's
the first
yeah.
I feel very sorry for
we do have a
Paul
picture of Mrs. Liddell somewhere, haven't we?
Miss Liddell.
Miss Liddell, sorry.
Miss Liddell. I don't know we do, because it was 1806. So that's the story of the White Lady, this poor
Wow.
girl who never got justice,
I believe.
who wanders the highways and byways, and her tree was cursed, and Murray Wilson stupidly chopped her tree down and tried to dispose
There you go.
of the firewood.
But
So
we knew about this when we were children. That was Mary Bragg's tree.
No.
That was Mary Bragg. Nobody ever used to go anywhere near it.
Oh my gosh.
And it had to be chopped down because it was old and dangerous and about
Right.
to block the
It
road.
could have
so-
killed somebody, so the council said. Nearly did, actually.
Yeah, nearly killed you.
Nearly did. Well, thank goodness.
That's
that
story number
you're
one.
okay, that's story number one.
Further north, in the Western Highlands of Scotland, on the shores of Loch Fyne, stands the iconic Inverara Castle, a fairy tale castle, or haunted castle. Inverara is the ancestral seat of Clan Campbell and the home to the Dukes of Argyll. Eleanor, the Duchess of Argyll, took me on a haunting tour of the castle.
So we're upstairs in the Brown Library, so in Princess Louise's apartment, and we are standing where a piper, apparently, so he's been seen by some people, not by me, luckily. I think you can probably feel a chill on you, as you're saying.
Yes.
So he stands up here and he pipes backwards and forwards across the balcony, and then he throws books down. So the books on the desk, he throws down on people.
What?
Yeah. So we have 5 ghosts, but this is the one where the piper is. So now I've said that, isn't it? Can you
Yeah, now I
hear
can- now-
piping?
Let me hold on. I'm going to pause for a second. I hear a clock.
No piping.
No pipe. I hear a bird song. So a piper. Have you heard any stories as to why it would be a piper up here?
Nope.
No.
But so there's various. So when a duke dies, apparently the galley of lawns, so the ship, this one here.
Yes, yes.
So apparently that will then be seen on the horizon going away into the distance, and that means that the Duke of Argyll's died.
Oh my goodness. Right. So maybe.
And we need to keep talking alive for a lot longer.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. yes, we do. But so maybe. Do you think a duke ever died in this room?
Well, maybe. Or maybe a piper got murdered in this room.
There you go.
Who knows?
Who knows? Mm. I love those stories. And I wish I could see them, though. I do. I wish one day.
I don't think
could
I'm
see-
brave enough.
No? Yeah, okay, maybe you're right. All right. There are several ghosts here.
There's
at
5
Inverara.
ghosts in the house.
Oh my goodness.
So we have the piper downstairs in the Brown Library, and then here at the top of the stairs on this chair is a lady that sits there. And over and over and over again, people see the same lady
No.
sitting there. which is amazing. So I walk up and down these stairs 100 times a day, never see a thing, but that chair there is where a lady sits.
So you've had visitors come up to you
Over
or
and over
report
again.
back and saying, who's the lady sitting in the chair?
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah, a grey lady, who knows?
A grey- it could be
And
a
then we
grey
have
lady.
another one in our tea room, we have a laundry maid, and then in the MacArthur room, that's our serious ghost room, so I'll show you that
Oh,
next.
okay, okay. So that's your serious one.
And this is the MacArthur room, so this is our big haunted room.
I've been here once before. I'm
Everybody, it's a freezing cold room, whatever time of year, so, it can be boiling hot. This room is chilly. It is cold. It's always cold.
and there's something quite heavy, dense. So I'm stepping
I can't
like
tell because
this.
it's got lots of different doors coming
Yeah.
off it, so there's always a draft, but it's a chilly room. So remember we had that, yes, that's Torquil's father's most hated picture.
Oh my God.
So it
So
is
who
horrible,
is that?
isn't it? Who knows, it's like an Italian...
Oh, that's not the ghost.
No, that's not the ghost, but when Torquil's father died,
Right?
that picture leapt off the wall and jumped onto the floor.
No.
So everybody knew that he had died. And actually he died in a hospital in London.
Oh my gosh.
And our head guide at the time said, oh, the Duke's just died. And everyone went, no, he hasn't, he's just gone for an operation. And that picture just leapt off the wall onto the floor. And apparently the sheep outside were all going crazy. They were like doing weird patterns.
No.
So this room,
Okay,
when Duke
so-
Neil was dying, the doors all locked. No one could get in or out. It's very strange because originally, so this bed
Okay.
was in the old castle. So remember, the old castle was more of a keep, and it was the other side from where this castle. So this
Right.
house is Georgian, remember, and we're now in the old keep.
Okay.
And this bed was in that, and the Earl of Argyll, he hasn't been made a duke by then. Here's he's going to be attacked by the Montroses,
Okay.
by the Earls of Montrose. So he leaves and leaves an Irish harpist behind.
Okay.
And the Irish harpist is a child, and he gets hung, drawn, and quartered,
No.
and hung out of the window.
No.
And now, apparently, that is where the poor child plays his plaintive music,
In the bed.
in the bed. So the bed is the scary bit, and the bed is very old and very creepy, and made even more creepy by Torquil's amazing mother, who sewed the creepy doll in
Yeah.
Campbell tartan, who sits there looking extra
Yep.
creepy.
Yep. And then you've got the creepy.
We've got the creepy picture.
Yeah.
And then this picture here,
Oh.
yes,
Oh.
apparently you look at them and you turn away and you look again and all their heads are meant to move around.
Okay. Wait. So look at them.
So you're meant to look at them, then
Yeah.
turn away, and then look, and apparently all the heads will have swapped around into a different place. Who knows?
No, who knows? Okay. So question is, this is open to the public.
This is open public.
Right,
And,
and-
lots and lots of people
Yeah.
won't come in here. Because it's too, it feels horrible.
I mean, I'm serious. This is the second time I've been in this room. 5 years ago I came here. It's the same thing. There is something dense and heavy in here. That's why I was stepping over it.
Oh, do you think that makes all the difference to get through?
Moving it.
But it
Moving
is,
the
it's a very,
energy
it is a
around.
very strange feeling in a room. And I've never seen a ghost. I've heard a ghost, I think, once, but I've never seen a ghost. And this is the room that lots of people won't come in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can see why. I could never sleep in here, ever. So if I ever come back to visit and then stay the night, please
This
don't
won't be
put,
the room.
no. Okay.
Luckily for you, there's no bathroom for miles around here, so that's okay.
Perfect. Phew.
Once a monastery and the crowning place of Scottish kings, Scone Palace in Perthshire has been home to the family of the Earls of Mansfield for over 400 years. During my visit, Sophie, the Countess of Mansfield, and her son William, Viscount Stormont, showed me some of the private rooms.
Right, so this is one of our lovely bedrooms called the Kenwood room.
Right.
And it is the site of a particular ghostly happening.
Like once or many times?
One time in particular,
Okay.
where a friend of the family, very close friend of the family, was sleeping here and was awakened during the night by a male being who came in and disturbed her sleep. She told him to get out, and instead of getting out, he kind of exited the room towards the turret bathroom, where he proceeded to make a lot of sort of crashing and banging and was like rocking around for a while. She was telling him to go. Eventually it quietened down and she fell back to sleep.
Right. And she wasn't scared?
She was, but she was a tough Scots lady and
Right,
she can handle
okay.
herself.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, it's still odd.
Right.
And she thought she recognised the individual because she was part of a house party.
Okay,
So
okay.
the next day at breakfast, slightly sort of a bit of a scandal, she confronted someone saying, "Why were you in my bedroom last night?" And the person that she confronted, I wasn't in your bedroom last night. She said, "No, you really were. I recognised you." She's like, "No, I wasn't." She's like, "No, you were." She's like, "No, I wasn't. I was in her. I was in someone else's bedroom last night." So obviously then our friend was like, "What? Who was this?" But the really odd bit of it was that the room, all the contents of the room had been moved around and put on the floor in nice little lines. So the toothbrush, the toothpaste, the soap, the towel, whatever else, had all been lined in a weird way. Yeah.
Can I also just comment here? This is decorated beautifully. I love this. So if I were a ghost, I would want to be in this room because this is a thing of beauty.
Built in the 14th century, Raby Castle in County Durham has been the site of medieval plots and intrigue, and since 1626, home of the Vane family. Surrounded by so much history, Kate, Lady Barnard, explained how she felt uneasy when she first moved to the castle.
Ghosts in historic houses. They're everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah,
And-
they're part of the fabric. I mean, I don't really believe in ghosts, if
Right.
the truth be known, because I don't want to, because I can't understand how it doesn't make any sense. It sounds absolutely bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, there's people about. There must be somebody about who you walk into a room, it has a good feeling, it has a bad feeling, and then there are the stories of what people see, and so they must be there. I can't get my head around it.
Same with me. So I haven't necessarily felt a ghost at Mapperton, but we've had lots of people stay. So it's definitely in this one room, there's a ghost. So here at Raby, I mean, this is vast. I can't even count how many rooms, doors, staircases, or fireplaces you have. But there must have been some mention of ghosts from guests staying here, or have you, when you first took over?
When we first took over, I felt very strongly that there were places I didn't want to go because I didn't like the feeling of the rooms, and I just thought this is really weird. And so I got some people in who very kindly, some Ghostbusters.
Really?
They came. There's two of them first.
So
came.
somebody who doesn't necessarily believe, you just thought there's some bad energy, I need to shift.
Well, I've got to try something. I mean, even if I don't believe, I've got to try something. So when they first came to do a recce, I took them to the room that I wanted them to look at, and they said, no, there's more energy over there. So I was a bit begrudging. I said, I'm not sure I've got much electricity in that, I'm not sure it's wired up. And I opened the door, and even I could see a movement. I didn't see a person, there was a movement in there. I thought, oh, that's a bit odd.
Right.
And they said, yeah, there's people around. So they then came back there was 10 of them.
10 Ghostbusters.
10 Ghostbusters. I promise there was no backpack, no
Wow.
squidgy stuff. There was
nothing.
No,
None of the
10,
Hollywood.
It was 10 people. No, we didn't have any of that.
Right.
And then they came first into this room, and they spent an hour in here.
And because they felt the energy in here.
Yes.
And
I wasn't in here. I was
Right.
I was just wondering what was going on.
They spent an hour in here.
Yeah, which is quite a long time, especially 10 people. And they came out and they said, oh, we found, we've moved on 8 people in here.
8 people. There were 8 ghosts that they moved on in
yes, but
here.
I think there was there was a baby, I think, that must have died, and a maid, and there was various sort of people that had various importance to the house. But the one they kept on going on about was there was this man who was in uniform, big man, very unhappy to go. And then they moved on to a couple of other rooms in the castle. And at the end of the day, end of the evening, it was about 11 o'clock at night, we were walking out of the castle, and I'm thinking, wow, this has been a very strange evening. And then somebody pointed at a portrait and said, that's the man we moved on. I didn't know who it was, but I had a caretaker with me, Mark, who said, oh yeah, that's the Prince of Orange. And so, and that was the end of it. That was the end of the story.
So they moved everybody on. They let somebody stay.
Yeah.
But
and so that was fine. And so later, Harry was doing some research into, the Prince of Orange, and his name's in the visitors' book, and that's fine. And it turned out that he'd been staying here when his father had died in the Netherlands, and he became king of the Netherlands while he was staying here, and had to go straight home. He hated being king. He had a very unhappy marriage. He tried to abdicate several times. And in fact, the last place he would have been happy was at Raby. And so, if you're going to believe in the whole thing, then, he was obviously going back to the place that he was happiest. Yeah. So,
oh my goodness.
So that's the story of that one. But
okay, so I do believe. I do believe that, though, even though I haven't seen it. It's when you hear that story, and also if you've got 10 Ghostbusters coming in, and they can feel the energy. Yeah. And then
it's utterly bizarre because none of it makes sense, and yet it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So.
And what about visitors here? Because you get a lot of visitors through the rooms, through the house. Has any of the guides or anybody said, "Oh, somebody's seen a ghost"?
No, one of the caretakers says he's seen a ghost, but that's when you're usually on your own at the end of the day, you see. And it's a big house to get around, so there could be somebody behind a cupboard or behind a door, and it could be a person. You're always. I'm sure there are people in the library who are probably sitting minding their own business, reading a book. In which case they're very welcome to carry on staying there. I'm all for. I wouldn't want to lose the feeling that the house have. And if that's ghosts, then. They're friendly people. They're friendly ghosts. I mean, if I had a nasty ghost, I'd want to.
If we want it to move on. So, last question. After they left, how did you feel? Could you feel that energy had shifted?
Yes, I could.
You could?
I could, and I'm now going to admit something that actually I've never really admitted to. The next day, or it was a couple of days later, I came back and I wanted to get onto above the Hunters Gallery, and I had to come down this passage. And I thought, I'm fine. And I got as far as the door, and I'd always been able to walk down here. And I got as far as the door up there, and I could hear the public downstairs, people walking around. And I thought, I just couldn't bring myself to walk onto the gallery at all. And so rather than admit to anything, I then said to Harry, I just need to pick something up, and it's quite heavy. Could you come up onto the Hunters Gallery with me? And so he came up and we did it. And since then, it's been absolutely fine. Yeah. So it was there was obviously a bit of settling to go.
Yeah. Just a moment there.
Yeah. But I had ideas that there was going to be all sorts of things go on. So I'd taken all the china out of one cabinet just in case we had a ghost that was going to throw china around. I got myself into a right pickle about the whole thing. I didn't know what I was. I just didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. Anyway, we've done it now.
It's brilliant. We've done it, and you know what? I mean, this room feels quite light.
Yeah, it all feels fine. And any other rooms that they've done anything in that they feel right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I have no worries about walking down the Hunters Gallery now. I never did before on the Hunters Gallery. I had a worry in another part that is now completely fine. I don't have a problem going down there.
So it did shift a bit.
It did. Yeah. Something shifted, and people have seen all sorts of things, but none of them have been dramatic. There's been a lot of people living here.
Well, brilliant. It is always a pleasure to hear those stories at these historic castles, and that one could be top of the charts. That's for sure.
Well, it'd be even better if we suddenly saw someone. You filmed it, and you suddenly see somebody walking across. There.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Living alongside the spirits has been felt at Knebworth House in Hertfordshire. With its dramatic towers, turrets, and gargoyles, it was transformed into a Gothic fantasy by novelist Sir Edward Bulwer-Lytton in the mid-19th century. Knebworth remains home of the Lytton-Cobbold family, and during my visit, fellow American Martha Lytton-Cobbold told me of spooky sightings.
So let's talk about ghosts.
We all love a good ghost story.
And Edward Bulwer-Lytton was famous for his fascination of life after death and the occult. And, we talked about him being bereft from losing his mother. So he was interested to see if there were a way to communicate This was a time as well, remember, the Victorians were learning about electric light bulbs, they were learning about the telephone, all these inventions were happening that seemed quite magical anyway. So they were very much interested in looking at seances and symbolism and ways of communicating with those who had passed on. I personally have never seen a ghost here at Knebworth. It may be that I'm too logically minded and, you know, I'm too much in a hurry and I'm always rushing around. I've certainly heard things.
Right.
I've certainly seen my dog react and point towards an area of the room or bark at something that isn't there.
Oh my gosh.
You know, my mother-in-law was much more spiritual and connected than I am.
Right.
And she definitely saw things here, and I believe her.
Yeah,
I completely believe
of
her.
course.
That she heard and saw things. And what she would often say in this room is that she would see a lady huddled at the second fireplace. Don't you love that, the second fireplace?
Yeah.
And I've had colleagues who have told me that someone has brushed past them. And you know,
Just in this room?
well, no, anywhere in the house.
Right,
There
right.
are key rooms where things have been felt more than others.
Okay.
There are areas within the gardens as they've evolved. We were clearing up from a wedding reception, and one of our duty managers was picking up champagne glasses, and she thought she saw a guest, but the guest was wearing a long frock coat and was walking through a hedge.
No.
But this was a hedge that was planted much later than the design
Right.
of the frock coat. So was it a family member?
Right, yes.
My kids often would say to me when they were little, you know, do you find it creepy or scary? And I said, no, this is you're the bloodline. If they're going to get anyone, they're after me. I'm the one that's just come in. But you're walking in their footsteps.
Yeah,
you're living in their
exactly.
house. You're walking down that pollarded avenue of trees, and you know, this is what they wanted, was for us to preserve and maintain and conserve this beautiful place. So
this area right here is where your mother-in-law said...
just here.
Just here, she'd be...
Yeah.
Who was she?
Huddled up. I don't know. No.
Like a
but of
grey
course
lady?
the house would have been, she was dressed very grandly, yes, but with a shawl, because they all wore shawls then.
it's
Of
so
course it
cold.
was freezing in here. But the house is much smaller than it used to be. It could have been many different connections. It could have been an element of another part of the house. And we know that older parts of the house were reused.
Yes.
So if that energy exists, in which we believe, and you know, what is it, that 500% of dust, or that can't be that, but over 50% of dust is human skin.
Yeah, that's
some
exactly
crazy
right.
statistic.
Yeah, it is. Ooh, that's...
So think about it. We're living in our ancestors.
That's right. So did your mother-in-law
Energy and
see her
dust.
once or twice, or...
Oh, multiple times. Yeah,
Okay.
multiple times.
Multiple times.
And she and my
The
father-in-law.
same person?
Oh, different people. Always the same person here, but in other
Right.
rooms, in other parts of the house, she felt a presence.
She felt a presence.
I find it a very friendly house. I feel that it's very welcoming. How do you feel?
Well, I haven't felt anything, and there's a part of me that thinks maybe it's because we're American.
I think we're both practically minded, and we're both very busy people, and we just keep running.
Exactly. So we just run right through them.
There is the slightly wicked side of me that would love to just come and blow in somebody's ear, though, just to see what the reaction would be. It's just, you know, as I've always said, you've got to have some fun in these houses.
Yeah, you do.
I know that the ancestors had a lot of fun too.
It was a dark and stormy night. Words written by Sir Edward Bulwer-Lytton were realized during my visit to Muncaster Castle in the Lake District. With the storm raging outside, the castle in darkness, we huddled around the fire to hear more ghost stories from Muncaster's past.
The tapestry room is a lovely room, and it's hung with the most wonderful historic tapestries, a very odd colour. And it's the sort of room you walk into and you either love it or you loathe it, and there's no sort of sitting on the fence.
I love it.
It's an odd room, and I've certainly experienced things in there. You take people complain of feeling very cold, or all of a sudden are just as if someone's touched them on the shoulder. And we used to use that bedroom for friends and family coming to stay, because it's quite convenient, because next door there is a bathroom, and
Right.
as you're well aware, many of these
Americans,
places,
we really like ensuite bathrooms.
yes, their plumbing was not big in medieval castles, and you had a chamber pot under your bed.
Yes.
And the days of people using chamber pots is luckily long gone. So it was a room we used quite frequently. And of course, when someone comes to stay, you say, did you sleep well the next morning? It's a normal question.
Yes.
And invariably, not all the time, but invariably people would say, no, I didn't sleep a wink. And we said, well, why? Well, the child was crying all night long. And when we told them there was no children in the castle that night, they went fairly pale, as you just did there. And there was one lady who was, well, she's a very intelligent lady. She went off and became a top London lawyer. And she was staying there in that room. And she said she could bear it when the child was crying, but when the ghostly nurse started singing to the child to calm it down, she was out of there. We found her the next morning a few doors down the corridor in bed with her mother because she was so scared. And so since then we've had to sort of, and we didn't really believe it, but it also seems to be a fairly anniversary ghost. And someone stayed in the room and got up the next morning and said he heard this child crying. We were saying, oh, no, he had too much port or something like that before. And he got really quite upset because no one would believe him that he was kept awake all night by this crying child. And we said, oh, yes, there was a girl last year who had this. And he rang her up and said, I've been staying at Monk's Castle. I said, you've heard her. And she was so happy that someone else had the same experience.
That her story was being corroborated by
exactly,
this
because people, you say you've had these weird experiences, people naturally don't believe you. And we're pretty sure it's Margaret Pennington. Now, Margaret, Maggie as we call her, was the only child of the 4th Lord Moncaster. So the 4th Lord Moncaster had great ideas, Gamel Pennington, and he was in his 30s. His first child had been born. He was renewing the castle. He was helping continue the transformation of into a wonderful stately home that was built to impress and entertain in style. And he died a year after Margaret was born of typhoid, as often happened in his early 30s. And poor Margaret, so in effect, inherited the castle, and she lived in that bedroom. And her mother was the daughter of the Duke of Westminster, so they were a fabulously wealthy family. But unfortunately, she died age 11 of what was put down as screaming fits. In fact, she was the last Pennington to be buried under the altar in the church in the Pennington family, because after that it was all full.
She died of screaming.
And so we don't know for sure, but we think the little girl that is heard crying in this bedroom is poor Margaret Pennington, who inherited the castle but didn't live long enough to enjoy her inheritance. And then the castle passed to her uncle, Jocelyn Pennington, who became the 5th and final Lord Moncaster.
Right.
So it's a strange little room, and I've never dared sleep in that room.
I was going to ask you that next.
One day,
I've never been in it. I've never slept in it.
I want to sleep in it one time when I know there's no one else in the castle, and I know.
What?
But then I think, don't be so stupid.
No, you can't do that.
Stupid. Something strange happens here, and if you believe in ghosts, it's the spirits of the place.
Yes.
And if you don't, if you do believe in ghosts, it's Maggie, as we call her.
Maggie.
And Maggie, we like to think of this playful child that's still living here. And some people have been in that room and said they didn't hear a child crying, but they heard a child reciting nursery rhymes, and I think that's lovely. That she's still there in the bedroom.
That's lovely, but I still wouldn't be able to sleep in there. Okay, third story.
Well, the third is the big one that you've experienced already tonight, because
he's been out.
He's rarely seen, but we are the home of tomfoolery.
Yeah.
And Thomas Skelton, who was known as Tom the Fool, lived here many centuries ago. Big character. We still can't pin him down. We got references to him in account books of his coat being bought. The role of the fool was to take the mickey out of those who thought there was something special in authority.
Right.
And his spirit, his mischievous spirit, still pervades the place. And the role of the fool is like the role of a stand-up comic these days, who stands up and slags off politicians and reminds us that we're all only human. If you get puffed up and think you're something special important, he'll bring you down to size.
Right.
And today, as you've experienced, we were having fun with the filming, and I think, rightly or wrongly, I'm no different from anyone else. I live in a weird place and a very special place, and there I am, poncing around as the King of the Cumberland. As soon as I dressed up as the King of Cumberland, came out to see you, bang, the power
That's
went
it.
off.
The power went off.
And
it's still off.
And it's still off. And since then, I've been running around trying to look after visitors.
But he was a bit of a
clients.
bad character, though, wasn't he?
Oh,
You've been looking after visitors, you've been looking after a film crew, we've been trying to film, and Thomas has kept that
Tom's
power off.
having his wicked way with
He
us.
is.
I mean, if you don't believe in ghosts, it's just coincidence and you're reading it. But so many times
I believe now.
Yeah, yeah. And so don't mess with Tom. And if Tom thinks you're doing wrong to the place, there'll be various
So
stories.
do you think that that's what it is? Do you think that the film crew came in
I think
and
you
he
should-
thought we're messing with the place?
No, I don't think he thought you were messing
And
with the place.
we're gonna
He was getting at
shut it
me
all
because
down?
I was sort of trying, well, I'm important. I should be the king of Cumberland.
I think because Tom has made himself known this evening by turning all the power off, somebody sleeping here
Well, he's
tonight
just perhaps warning
is
you.
going to be awakened by Tom.
But-
and it better not be me.
I think you're fine because he likes the ladies and you're a very exotic, being an American
I'm a lady.
viscountess. Yeah, and they are.
I'm a lady.
So you should.
I'm going to be the culprit now. You just said.
Well, you should be
He
safe. You
likes
should be safe. And you're in the.
He likes
You're in
the
the oldest part
ladies.
of the castle, but not.
Okay, he likes the ladies. I'm in the oldest part of the
No,
castle.
as in he likes. He won't. He won't.
He's
he won't
coming
get
for
at
me.
you.
He won't come and
You
visit
are
me, I don't
warning
think.
me, aren't you? That's
No,
what
no,
that story is about. You're warning
No,
me
no,
tonight.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
There's no power, and my phone is nearly dead, so I can't even keep my
You can't
iPhone
even
light
call
on for the rest of the night.
At least you'll be able to hear Mary tonight.
Oh my
Well, she's
goodness.
outside. You're safe from Mary, but.
Oh,
Anyway, that's just a
okay.
snapshot of some of the many, many tales we could tell. But strange things happen here.
Well, I can't wait for breakfast tomorrow, as in, I can't wait for morning and light and all of that.
Well,
So
I hope to see you hale and hearty and well slept at breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah, fingers crossed.